Hello and welcome to Bearable Traders Podcast Talk with Traders. In this episode, Thor and I talk about how you can identify if you are being a greedy trader and the negative impact this has on your trading. We hope this can help you identify some of the subtle actions that you might not be aware of that can help you change your mindset. Let's jump right into episode number 8. Are you a greedy trader? Hey everyone, welcome back to Bearable Traders Podcast. And in this episode, Thor and I are going to get into talking about, are you a greedy trader? So can't wait to get into that because we have some really good pointers on how you can figure that out. And you'll be surprised at some of the stuff that we're thinking about here. But before we dive in, as usual, Thor, how are you doing, my friend? How has your week been so far?
Man, it's been great. Episode 8 already for us, which is just crazy that we've been doing this for a couple of months now. Quick shout out to our fans and followers who have been building ever a little here, a little there, and we love you for it. Great contact and feedback we've been getting from everybody. Love the perspective from you. And this is actually kind of one of the questions we've been getting. As you guys know, podcast at bearabletraders.com. You can send us an email, and if it's a relevant question to kind of what we've got going on, we'll add it in and you can talk a little bit about it. So, but yeah, man, going great. Family's doing good. We had the 3-day weekend, so we got to have a little bit of fun with that and do some stuff. How about you, man? How's your family? How's life?
Yeah, family's well, and yeah, definitely 3-day weekend. That was fun. Had actually some family from Florida surprised us. They came over and they were hanging out with us for the weekend. So that was fun with my nephews
Nice.
there. So yeah, really good time. And then 4-day week. So we get to, a day to relax there. So
Beautiful.
guys, yeah, as Thor mentioned, thank you for all the messages on that we're getting on the comments, on the emails, on the Twitter, on the IG. I mean, we are very glad to hear you guys are enjoying this podcast. And hit a thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up over on YouTube. And if you're listening in on Apple Podcasts, we would love a review there because, it's so hard to get reviews on Apple Podcasts. I noticed that. And not just our show, just any show. I can tell there's some really popular shows out there that I enjoy podcasts. I enjoy this long format. And I noticed that people don't really give reviews that often on Apple Podcasts, and I'm at fault at that too. I'm gonna start changing that so I can give back what I want to get back, right? So
yeah, I feel like in that there's got to be in YouTube, because you're watching it in video, you're interfacing with it there. It's so easy just to click and type. But on the podcast, you're doing this thing, you're listening through your ears. So it's like you got to get your phone back out. You got to get in there, and I don't even know if I know how to leave a review on a podcast.
There you go. And you're a podcast fan as well, like I am.
And I love podcasts.
Me and you need to change that. We're gonna find out how to leave reviews.
We got to make this better. Well, I mean, that's part of the reason we did this show, right? Is because we felt like although there is some long form out there for the trading world, not really like the stuff that handled the stuff we were looking to talk about. So there we go. So if you can figure out how to leave us a good review,
for those that leave those reviews, it's gonna be like double appreciation because we know you took an extra couple of steps to do that. But no, thank you guys. We appreciate it. That's just our way of us telling you thank you guys for tuning in and watching and listening in any platform. All right, let's jump in, guys. So today we're going to talk about, are you a greedy trader? And I think at first, a lot of people don't think they're greedy overall. They don't have that greedy mindset. But you'd be surprised. Trading does a couple of things for you. First of all, you're going to find out who you really are as a person when it comes to managing money, managing emotions, right? Because I know many traders are calm, cool, and collected that lose their cool when it comes to trading. So trading will push your limits to the end that you have never thought you could reach, right? So we've seen that in many occasions, right? So
we've lived it.
Yeah,
we've lived that.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about some of the things you need to be on the lookout for. When you think about greed, you're always thinking about, big corporations, and you're thinking about people that are, at a different level when it comes to wealth. And actually, you can be a greedy trader even at a smaller account level, right? And you could see that in some of the actions that you do. And we'll give you a few examples of one. The one that I have done personally is, push a stock to keep going even after you more than hit your goal, right? And you're still holding on to the little bit of shares left, seeing if you can go higher. And usually what it ends up doing is you just end up wasting time. Like it doesn't go any higher than that. So you end up wasting time just waiting for this thing to go higher. And the little bit you have left really it's not worth the value you're going to get out of it because it's just such a small number of shares, right? So to me, I see that as being greedy with your time, right? As far as, you hit your goal, move on, get out of the trade, and find other opportunities or go do something else that you enjoy instead of being there, hoping and wishing this thing is going to go even higher after you had a great trade, after you hit your goal, and after you made some really good profits.
Oh man, I couldn't agree with that more. And in the last episode, we talked a little about Price's Law, right, which is one of my favorite go-tos. And
Yeah.
being the greedy trader really works against you when it comes to this, because basically our concept is the more you trade, the less valuable each trade becomes. So as your greed ensues, you're really risking more and more and more to make less and less and less. And again, why did you become a day trader, right? If you were going to make the kind of money we're making, you could make it in a lot more stable ways if you want to spend a lot of time doing it, right? You could go to college, you could get an 8-year degree, you could become a high-level engineer or a doctor, and you could work for 60 hours or 70 hours a week and maybe more, and you could make couple $100,000 a year. But I thought we became day traders so that we could trade for 5 minutes, what I mean, and then go off and do other stuff like recording cool podcasts and and stuff like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's why we did this. So that's part of being the greedy, is being aware of your time, right, and not devaluing yourself. And, because that is very, very important as you're sitting there. Again, for vanity's sake, you're holding the 1 or 2 shares because you want them to go somewhere. But in reality, you're going to make $5 an hour for the next 2 hours because you're holding,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
holding 1 or 2 shares. They're only going to go a couple bucks. You're not going to make any money. So it's a pretty picture, which of all people, I appreciate a good, pretty picture.
Hmm.
But you can also say, hey, I cut this position here. Well, why didn't you hold all the way to here? I didn't have enough shares. It wasn't worth holding.
Right, right.
I mean?
It
I just say,
wasn't worth
oh,
it. Yeah,
makes sense. Cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't even
yeah.
argue with
Yeah.
you.
So yeah, that's you bring up a great point about being greedy with your time. I actually didn't think about that, but you're right. Being greedy with your time as far as you could be doing something else more productive, and that just takes away from, like you said, the goals. Probably one of the goals you got into trading for was to be able to have the freedom to do more stuff, right? So don't forget the reasons why you got into trading. That's very important because that
I
keeps
mean, why
you
why do we love
in the right
Andrew,
track,
right?
right?
Because he goes and climbs a mountain,
Yeah,
and he's off living the life, living this dream, this view of things. Man, I want to be cool. I want to do this. What is the allure there? Well, here's someone who's financially capable,
yeah,
and now he's off doing the things he really wants to do. Are you living to trade, right? Or are you trading to live?
yeah,
What's
yeah,
your view of things? We have our families and our loved ones. If anything, if I'm not spending my money here productively, educating or doing something, I want to go spend time with them.
yeah.
Right. So
Absolutely. Yeah,
just sitting here for vanity's sake. I mean, it's, depending on how classify greed, but it definitely comes across, at least being greedy with your
yeah,
time. But I really like what you said a bit about. We had talked about this beforehand a little bit as we were getting set up, which is that greed is not something that is restricted to large account size,
yeah.
right? And
Correct.
I think this is where a lot of traders maybe like miss the mark, is they say, "Oh, well, I can't be greedy. I don't have that much money."
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, and I don't know about y'all, I grew up a little country, maybe rubbing a couple of pennies together, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we weren't affluent by any math, but we were doing okay,
Yeah, yeah,
but the less money you had, the more greedy I actually feel like you are. You're always holding on to every cent. You're being super, arduous. And this is why a lot of small banks have trouble succeeding, because they're not willing to just let their accounts mature. They take their profit off too early
yeah,
because they're
yeah,
greedy, and because of the lack of their account size, those too early profit takes don't result in enough profit to offset your losses,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So but if you got a big account, you think, oh, that's going to be super greedy. No, he's got a big account, he's affluent, he's not worried about it, right? This account is working because he has the money to let it work. Think about millionaires and billionaires. As they gain more and more money, they tend to become more altruistic as they gain more money, right? They don't
mm-hmm.
like take their money and put it in a mountain like Scrooge McDuck somewhere, right? They,
Yeah.
they,
Not
they
all of
tend
them,
to
at
go out and
least.
start
Yeah,
spending it.
yeah,
I mean, I would put all my money in a mountain like Scrooge McDuck and swim in it like a swimming pool. That sounds amazing. But that's not generically how most do. So
yeah.
I actually kind of have, surprise, surprise, kind of an upside down view on that from the normal look. But
Yeah, no, I agree, man. Something else too that I think is even more could be more popular within traders, or at least we see more often, is the leverage, right? People
Mm,
using a very high leverage that they shouldn't be using for their account size, and not just account size. Always think about also because there's always two sides to this, right? You have your account size and you have your experience, and these two things should go hand in hand and work together because you can be a brand new trader with a $40,000, $50 account. Based on your experience, you should still be trading a very small amount, because your experience is not up to par with the account size, right? So experience is more important based on how you should be trading, right? This is why you see sometimes, you see experienced traders take a very small account and grow it very quickly. That's because they have the experience. So if I were to go back and say, what do you rather have? A $5,000 account and a lot of experience, or $100,000 account and no experience. I take the 5,000 with the experience any day of the week, right? Because that's what you're seeing there for people that are very experienced, that have years in the game. They can move themselves up very quickly with that experience. So these two got to go hand in hand, and we see people with with smaller accounts that they even might have great experience, been trading for a while, right? They kind of building themselves up, but they start leveraging too high to try to move that
hmm
quicker, to try to push things along a little bit faster, a little bit further. And it takes a couple of trades to get into a really bad situation. So when you're using leveraging correctly, that is part of greed. You might not label it that way, but that's the way at least I look at it. You're being
Oh,
greedy
I
with
agree.
your account, and trying to get more than what you should be for your experience and your account size in some cases.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree with that more. And the thing is this is one of those greed areas that can really be detrimental, because when
Yeah.
you're using margin, if you're not very careful, right, you can start to dilute your account cash very quickly, right? And show your sure, you're trading with this, you're only losing a couple hundred or a couple, but one bad trade utilizing your margin like that, all of a sudden you're going quite negative, and the next time you take a trade you'll have less margin,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then you lose money. That next trade you will have less margin, right? So the more you trade, the more money you lose, the less effective every single trade goes. That's why I agreed, the market, and we talk a bit about this, as an emotionally driven machine, right? The market itself is mostly algo controlled for the vast majority in the market making process, sure, but those algos are coded by people who put the emotions right in there. The market overreacts just as bad as anybody could imagine, right? I mean, it'll do all kinds of crazy things, and it is specifically designed to elicit emotional responses from you, right? The market wants to push the price and
Yep.
pull the price back because it wants to tap into your greed and your fear and these emotional characteristics that will cause you to make decisions you shouldn't make, right? These shakeouts, the thing the market does, drops quickly and then pushes back up, right? These are the things it's intentionally doing because it wants you to lose confidence in what is often obviously true. Like, you're looking at the chart and it's a double bottom, it's got all the volume signatures, the order book looks great, it's making
Yep.
new highs, everything about this trade looks 100% perfect. I am in, this is my new low. And then you take the position off early. Why did you take it off early? Oh, well, it had this really weird candle that came back and did that. Yep, that candle was for you, actually. That
Yeah.
how come
Yep.
I get stopped out at every single thing? Because that candle was there and it was there for you, right? The market is designed. So if you can't get in control of your emotions, and that includes your greed side, right, then you're cutting positions too early. You're not holding them long enough. And if you don't, and either one of those scenarios will completely negate your ability to get to consistent profitability in trading. You
Yeah. Yeah.
have to let your winners run, and your losers have to get cut early. If you don't follow at least that basic cut your losers, let your winners run mentality, right, you're going to really struggle as a retail day trader.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so funny, such a fine line, because you mentioned something there about letting your winners run, and also cutting your losers early. I think it's so important because yes, you can be greedy by not letting your winners run. If you're staring at the P&L and you're seeing a profit there, you're thinking mentally. It's more of a mental state, right? You're thinking, oh
Yeah.
wow, I'm up $500. Let me take some out pretty fast, right? this is an action that it's based around you making money quickly, right? Or just, let me grab what I
Hmm.
can, let me hold it, I don't want to lose it. This all is going to amount to just that kind of that greed mentality, which you got to get rid of, right? This is why many traders, when they first start out, they kind of hide the P&L. They know they're trading small number of shares anyway, right? And in some cases, after a while, you will be able to calculate how much the P&L is, because you take a number of shares, you can calculate, okay, I'm up 50 cents, I'm up $500, right? So you can calculate that. That'll come with experience, obviously. But at first, or if you're a good math person, which I am not, but at first, not having
Surprisingly,
that.
neither of us are.
No, uh, at first, not having that P&L flashing in your face, it could be a way to kind of break away from that. So I always like to see new traders do that, at least for the first couple of months, just to get into the habit that you're here for the process. And you want to disconnect yourself from any kind of greedy mentality that you might have, that you might actually not be aware of. Because again, going back to our personal lives, I'm not a greedy person, right? I love to share things, and I'm more giving without expecting anything back. That's just the way I was raised, my family and everything else. We're all like that. But
Absolutely.
but trading, like I mentioned before, trading does weird things to you. It makes you do things that are uncharacteristic to how you live your personal life, right? Doesn't mean you're a bad person, doesn't mean you're a greedy person. But there are this thing about trading that definitely, like I mentioned before, does push you to the limit, or to areas that you are might not be in your comfort zone, right? Out of your comfort zone, if you want to say that better. But
Well, I have a really good friend of mine who he's a social psychologist, whatever that means. But he talks a little bit about people and their illicit fears and greeds and how this stuff goes. And he says most people, when they feel like they are being wronged, right, or
mhm.
they are feel like they are being slighted against, will do things that you've never imagined a person would ever do, right? And
Yeah,
so I mean,
yeah.
and so you're and, you're even talking, you could go back to the like the Breaking Bad kind of show or something.
Yes,
Here's a
yes, yeah.
here's a person who's just a normal everyday Joe that gets pushed into, because of life scenarios, being quite an interesting character, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So but this happens to your trading as well, right? Which is, although in your life you're a normally very calm and convicted person, you're not greedy, you tend not to make those kind of decisions, but all of a sudden in the course of your trading, you're starting to feel this resentment of being, in a
Mhm.
course of a trading day, wronged over and over and over again. I'm being hunted. The market's out to get me, all these things, but these things do not result in better participation on your behalf, right? Like the outliers that we're talking about in the example, these characters or people end up becoming very destructive, right?
Yeah,
Both to
yeah.
themselves, society, the people around them, right? And that happens to anybody put under like that kind of pressure for that long. So you need to, that is what the market above all understands these psychological principles, and they
Yes,
are
yes.
using them against you at all times, right? They make the new high, they make the new low, they make the new high, they make the new low. Why didn't they just keep going for you, right? They didn't keep going because of
That's
you.
the
they
that's the
they
business. That's the
they were
business
waiting.
there.
That's the
Yeah.
business. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. You mentioned a good point about, when someone feels that they've been wronged. And I see this a lot too, when in certain comments that I look at online, where someone, will hate on someone else that's doing well in trading. And I completely get
Mm,
it. There's haters out there, and that's just want to troll. But there are actually people out there that do hate the outcome of somebody else, which again is just unbelievable. Hopefully that's the very small group of people out there, and not the other way around. And it's because trading is very difficult, right? So they're looking at another person saying, why can I be doing this? And I'm struggling. They might feel like the market has wronged them and not nobody else. And that's just not the case. We're all trading the same market. It's just that, some people are going to be able to trade this at a very high level and perform very well. And others, even after doing everything correctly, might not get the opportunity to be a great trader. It's just not
mm,
something that's built for them, because a lot of it is based on emotion. If it was just a task, and just not emotions alone, your mental state is probably 80% of trading, right? 100%. It's
100%.
I mean, I'll
100%.
bet my money on it. 80% it's
Yeah.
all on your mental state. The technical and psychological part is 20%, I think. You still have to learn it, and it's extremely important. You can't be an amazing trader without technicals and knowing what you're doing. That's important. But if you can get the mental side of it down pat, which many traders cannot, that is the difference between building that consistency and avoiding some of these issues, as far as being a greedy trader and doing things that lead up to that kind of that greed mentality. And one of the things that you see a lot is from is people just trying to push a lot more than what they need to, right? Because trading can really be an amazing vehicle to make an income. It really can. And if you look at it in a way that, hey, um, actually, to go back a little bit, I spoke about this in our onboarding class this Monday that we had, and one of the things was that you know your goal as a trader should be to be a part-time trader. Starting out, you should
Hmm.
become a part-time trader. Forget about the money, keep your regular job, keep everything else going as normal, and as much as you can. I know that's we said this before, and it's very difficult if you work in the East Coast and your job is 9 to 5. But there's a lot of jobs out there that are very flexible, especially now after COVID, with all the technology, some jobs allowing you to work from home. Push for that. Push that to be your initial goal, right? Become a consistent part-time trader. You can provide some income, whatever that income is. It could be $100 a week, could be 400 a month, but do that first. And if you could do that consistently over a couple of months, then see what other opportunities you can get out of it, right? I mean, if you're trading part-time a couple of hours in the morning, right, or an hour or two in the morning, and you can come to the point where you're making $2,000, $3,000, right? After some years, right? This is not going to happen overnight. That's a great part-time gig. I mean, give me a gig that you can make that type of money part-time, without having to leave the comfort of your home, trade from anywhere, and still have your job. So now you take this income you're making here, this side income, add it to your regular job, and that could be a very good financial situation without putting yourself in a tough place, right? Because the goal is always, oh, I'm going to become a full-time trader and I'm going to leave my job. And that goal is very, very unrealistic for many people, right? For many people.
Well, and let's just throw a statistic in there too, just for the fun of it, right? Which is, why put all your eggs in one basket for this scenario? You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, the reality is, and as uncomfortable as it can be to talk about, the vast majority of people who attempt retail day trading will not ultimately end up doing it as a full-time career.
Right. Right.
There, but only in the same way that I'm saying everyone who tries to become a lawyer doesn't become a lawyer. Everyone who wants to
Hmm.
become a doctor doesn't become a doctor. A pilot becomes a pilot, right? Now, most people switch their careers paths. Like, I think the statistic on Google is like every 4 years they're switching careers. Most people have like 3 to 5 careers in their lifetime,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So not everyone statistically is going to be a day trader. So you have to keep that in mind when you're talking about this aspect of greed, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
main first aspect you have to think about greed is not having an expectation for what you're going to get out of being a day trader. That is greedy, right? If you're
Yes.
if you're
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
coming into this gig thinking I'm going to be able to take this small amount of money I have and magically turn it into a big amount of money, and I'm not going to have to work my tail off to do it, that is a proposition that's not going to work out very
Yeah.
well
Yeah.
for the vast majority of people. There are obviously the statistical outliers. There are buy low, sell high, get luckies, and which is just a pure example of how psychology can work even when fundamentals don't. Because
Yes.
they're making
Good
money and they
point.
have no
Yep.
idea why, but because they're willing to buy the dip and hold it, they make money, right? It's psychology. Might not make a lot of sense, but
Yeah.
we're day traders. They're not, right? Different objectives, and we make more money over time. But the reality is there, right?
Yeah.
That psychological impact drives in those instances. So what you can't do is undermine your effort by being too greedy, right? Trying to go for too big, too quick, too much
Yeah.
money, thinking
Yeah.
you're going to throw a Hail Mary that's somehow going to change not only your entire financial situation, but your whole life. Like, your whole life. Please,
Hmm.
your whole life should never be about one moment.
Right. Right.
If you're YOLOing, right,
Yeah.
which
Don't
is where
YOLO
we call
this.
this the you only live once trade, right, where you
Yeah.
basically look at your P&L and you're like, man, if I don't get this underway now, I'm hitting a wall here. So you just start slamming P&L. The market was specifically designed to take your money.
Yeah.
And it's going to
Absolutely.
be a
Yeah.
very sad and tragic event when it does it, but it will most likely, unless you are an incredible statistical outlier, which you are likely not. So
Yeah.
tough
Yeah.
love in this moment from us, but that's kind of why we're talking about greed, because that's, of the things that probably blow up accounts the most, it's overutilizing your margin, right? Taking trades that are way too big for your account size, trying to make too much money too fast,
Hmm.
and not being in it for the business for the long haul, which is what Carlos
Yeah.
was talking about. Maybe you have a part-time gig at the same time, so you can learn the market, become impassioned with the market, learn how it operates, start making regular side hustle money, then turn your side hustle into your main hustle.
Hey, friends, I hope you're enjoying this conversation and most importantly, that you're finding value that you can put into practice in your trading. I have some really good news for those that want to try trading and also for our experienced traders that want to trade in a sim environment. We just released our live simulator at tradingterminal.com. It is currently in beta, but it looks pretty good so far. So definitely head over to tradingterminal.com and take advantage of a live simulator that has no delay and you can practice trading the markets in real time. In addition to that, we still have our free replay simulator, which you can go back and replay any previous tickers from previous trading days. This is really an amazing tool and a game changer for anyone looking to get into trading and even for those that are experienced and want to practice. Head over to tradingterminal.com and take advantage of these two amazing tools. Now, let's jump back into our conversation about greed. Here's some of the notes I took on what makes a greedy trader. So be on the lookout for this. One of them was, greedy traders tend to set unrealistic expectation on every single trade, not even the whole picture, but on every trade,
Mm,
the expectation is way up there. Like, okay, that's way past R4, R5, R6. Like, what are you
right.
doing? It's just unrealistic for this trade, for this move. Another thing to do is they tend to actually, when they do win, they tend to bring a big position, a big P&L back, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Sometimes bigger than traders that are more experienced are doing much better, right? As far as a long period throughout, if you look at the entire big picture, there's traders that are doing a lot much better, performing more consistently. But greedy traders tend to have these big, huge spikes where they're pushing a very large amount. That again, going back to that experience level, for that experience, that return does not add up. And eventually, when those two are not matching up, when you find yourself on the other side of that coin is when things really go south, right? Because we already know what happens there. You start triggering other actions that creates, averaging down,
Yeah, bag
all or
holding.
bag holding, all or nothing, turn a day trade, the big one, turn a day trade into a swing trade. Next, it becomes an investment trade.
Yeah.
We've seen that. It happens, guys.
Yeah, nothing
I've
like getting liquidity locked and not being able to day
Yeah,
trade anymore.
yeah. I seen traders that started out to day trade, and not many, but the few have reached out to me asking for advice. And again, we don't give financial advice, and any advice I give you at that point is the wrong advice, right? Because you're way past all your rules. But we've seen traders that are holding positions for 1 or 2 years, waiting for it to come back to break even, and sometimes it never does, and they realize, you know what? I got greedy. Now I'm paying the price for it. I got to just cut this position and bite the bullet. And then you know what happens the minute they do that, 3 months down the line, it goes back to their break even.
Yeah.
The market
But
has a
again,
funny
for
sense of
them,
humor.
it would even be better to cut the position, and if the fundamentals exist, get back long from the
Right.
new lower level and start making your money back. But
Yeah.
you can't just park in a position, forever. I mean, now if you're, Intel actually is a good example. As of today, Intel is drawing down quite a bit because Intel cut their dividend. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's
So,
talk about that. Yeah.
I actually got a great short on Intel today, by the way, after
Yeah.
squeeze. But which I was waiting for, because here's the thing: Intel doesn't make money, right? As far
Hmm.
as a growth stock, right? It's
Right.
almost
Right.
in like the tech world. It's almost like a blue chip for me. Like it's a stock. It's
Yeah.
Intel's a
Yeah.
name you've known for a long time. They pay a dividend, although they
Yeah.
don't make a lot of money on the dollar moves, right? They're like
Hmm.
a 20 something dollar stock. Maybe they're not going to be a $400 stock anytime soon, but you got
Yeah.
that nice juicy dividend every single quarter. Well, now
Yeah.
their dividends cut, right? So now, as even a blue chip kind of concept, a blue chip tech stock, they really don't have the value anymore because they're not making money dollar wise. They're also now
Hmm.
not paying a dividend, right? With lower. So that's why like Intel does big squeeze now, selling off quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is an instance where, if you were short in Intel right off the beginning, you could have just held. You would have been eventually right? You would have made money because it did eventually make new daily lows. but
Hmm.
you endured a $1.50 pullback during that process. Or you stop out, take $100 loss because you got the wrong direction, let it squeeze all the way up to that range, reshort again, and then make 8 or 9 R on the direction down, right? In one scenario, you break even, you maybe make an R or two. In the other scenario, you made 7 or 8 R for the day. In one instance, you lost a trade. In the other instance, you only won. The
Yeah,
losing
yeah,
is better, right? This is where not being greedy really actually comes into place, because not being greedy is the key component to not holding on to your money, right? And
yeah,
in order
yeah.
to be a successful trader, you must lose. I lose at, I run a really good hit rate. I have 60,
Hmm.
70% consistent hit rate day to day. Freaking awesome. Trading Nirvana.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
I still have to lose 1 or 2 trades in order to hit that hit rate. Right.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm consistently profitable because those 1 or 2 trades result in 1 or 2 R loss. Right. And then my winning trades are 4, 5, 6 R net loss wins. Right. So by the time I win a trade or two, even if I lose a trade or two, I could be at 50% hit rate. I'm still walking away quite profitable for the day. Right.
yeah,
All
yeah,
because I'm keeping greed in check. Right. If I was holding any of those losing positions for too long, that doesn't work. I don't make enough money to overcome them. Right. If I didn't hold any of my winning positions long enough, I don't overcome it either, because I can't negate my 2 losers. You got to do
yeah.
it. You just got to. This is where the statistical and systematic approach to the trading thing really helps you out. Because if anything, if I have 4 losers in a row, I just want to be done for the day, lick my wounds, and come
Hmm.
back a different day. Because that's another greed moment there, right? You can't get freaked out. You can't start YOLOing. You can't get greedy because you're
Yeah,
losing
yeah.
money. Statistically, you can't make the money back anymore. You've lost so much money today. Better just to preserve capital, come back in the next day when the market conditions are more in your favor.
I agree, man. There's so many emotions out there. That you have the FOMO. You have the when when you're ecstatic about something that went well. Because also the extremes are not good. Here's another one. Greed has probably got to be the biggest, most impactful emotion that you do not want to have when it comes to the financial markets. You just don't want to have greed, because it can cause some serious problems when it comes to your trading. They're all very bad, but for example, if you FOMO on something, you just didn't get in, you're not hurting your account.
Mm.
If you have a fear of getting in or getting out of a trade, that's a little bit different. But when you have greed, it impacts everything at a whole different level. So it's so important to set up habits that can prevent you from being greedy. And also, we don't mention this enough in the trading world. Is the more you do something, it becomes a habit, right? The more you do, it becomes a habit. So look forward to stopping out properly. If you have to stop
Hmm.
out, look forward to that. Like, you know what? This trade is not working out. I'm gonna stop out. And when you stop out, it's you have to quickly forget about the loss, because obviously losses are painful, right? But if you lost $100 and you stopped out accordingly, somehow, and I'm saying somehow because I know how difficult this is, you got to turn that into a huge positive and feel good about it immediately, saying, you know what? Uh, Here's my confirmation that this was excellent. I did what I was supposed to do. And that's difficult to do when you look at the board and you're down. you know, that's not easy
Hmm.
to do, right? It's like an athlete. If you're playing a basketball game, right? You made a great play, you play the game very well, but you look up at the scoring board, you're down by 10 points, right? It's hard to feel good about that. But you have to, because then that is going to trigger, hey, this was a good action that I did. I need to replicate this over and over again so it becomes a habit. And I know easier said than done, but really work on that, guys. It's going to help you get rid of that greed.
Well, you got to think, right? Let's say you take 4 trades in a day and you run a 50-50, let's say 60% hit rate. What if your first 2 trades of that 50-50 are the losers, right? So
Yeah,
your
yeah,
next
yeah,
2
yeah.
trades are winners, right? They're coming up, they're queuing up, they're going to make you some money. You're about to do it, right? But because you're absorbed by the 2 losers that are statistically perfectly fine,
Right,
right?
right.
I lose a couple trades every day. It just happens, no bigs, right? But now I'm statistically likely to win. Now I'm going to manage poorly. You know what I mean? And that's where it goes.
It
The
happens,
other thing,
man. Yeah, yeah,
you got me with, you said it earlier and then I kind of spaced and I came back, right? Which is, you'd kind of said about people like focusing on other people's stuff too. And
yeah,
that made
yeah.
me think another issue with greed, right? And this is more a little bit, greed leads to envy, right? So, and
Hmm.
envy is a very
Good
dangerous
point.
place to be in stock
Yes.
trading as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
So, I feel like when people are dogging people, people are ripping them down and like commenting on that, I really just think they're envious.
Yeah. Yeah.
They see someone who's being successful where they're not being successful, right? And instead of trying to elevate to their level, you decide you want to bring them down to your level,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that is never the best scenario. One of the things I love about BBT is our team is very interested in elevating everybody within the team and community at all times. Like if you
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
something bad about another teammate at BBT, justified or not, you're probably getting a phone call, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's just not how we treat each other, right? We're not
Right. Right.
envious of each other. If anything, we know we're gonna lift each other,
Yeah.
as we
Yeah.
grow. But your
And you
trading
see
needs to be
that.
that way too.
And you see that across the community too with the members. I mean, we have guys like David from Connecticut. We have some people that have been with us for some time, right? 4 or 5
Mm-hmm.
years. And these guys are contributors to the community. And even when they're having a bad day, they'll cheer someone on. And even when that person's having a bad day, they'll cheer somebody else on, right? Because it's part of the game. You are gonna have bad days. But to have a bad day, be salty, and then say, everybody, if you know what I mean, doesn't work, doesn't benefit anybody. Instead, and
Yeah.
actually, the person doing that type of damage is doing it to themselves, really, right? You're only hurting
Yeah, they're
yourself for
being
having.
harmed more than anybody. They're harming
Exactly.
themselves because
Exactly.
if you're in an envious state like that, you're certainly not. My whole thing would be is you're certainly not a stock trader right now. Like
Yeah.
whatever you're
Right.
doing right now,
Right.
you're on social media throwing hate and
Yeah.
shade at
Yeah.
at your favorite guru or whatever. What you're not doing is whatever needs to be done to focus on getting better at stock trading. Like
Exactly.
dressing that
Yeah.
person down, doing all that stuff. You're never getting anywhere with that. And if that's where you are in your stock trading, boy, I hope you're not live,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because if you
Yeah.
don't have the mental wherewithal to at least control your ability to to do those kind of things, you're certainly not emotionally controlling your stock trading in a relevant way at this
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
if
And
you
we
are
get a few of those because we're mods, and every now and again
yeah, it
someone has a rough
happens. It
day.
happens.
We make the watch lists and
Yeah.
and stuff like that, so people go, hey man, this is you made money this day but I didn't make money, and this and this and that, and I'm just like, man, I'm sorry, we're going to work and help you out as much as we can, but if you're blaming me, then you're not focused in the right direction. We're providing you the
Right.
educational
Right.
experience, right? All you can do is absorb it, but that's that'd be like getting mad at your math teacher because you don't know math, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I'm, as
Yeah.
admittedly we're both pretty bad at math,
We
thank God
both
for
pretty bad at
hotkeys.
math. So this is why we
Hotkeys,
didn't do
you
too
know.
much of a technical show. We did a more of a podcast.
You don't want the
Avoid
technical
the
show. You can
math.
go find Andrew and Artie for the
Yeah, and
technical show.
it's funny. Andrew gets a lot of this, on social media as well, and he is by far one of the most humble traders and humble
Mm,
person that we know, and an amazing trader, right? Like he's an incredible trader, and when I see people doing that, I want to jump in and say, you know what? But it's like, why bother? Why bother? So if
mm,
you are on the receiving end of this as a trader as well, you're looking to, you're sharing your stuff out there. Somebody comes to you with that, just ignore them. In
yeah.
fact, you should feel sorry for that person that they're
Yeah,
actually
I was
have
gonna
that
say, if
type of
anything, acknowledge
mentality.
they're probably going through a
Yeah,
really rough period.
yeah, feel sorry
Sometimes when
for them.
people
Yeah,
do that to me, I kind of reach back up and be like, dude, it seems like you've got something going on. Shoot me a DM if you
wish
need
them
some
all the
help.
best. Wish
You
them
know
all
what I
the
mean?
best, and
I
that's
hope
it.
things are
Yeah,
good. And I've actually, I have someone I mentored and they became a profitable trader, and I experienced them the
beautiful.
first time with them trolling me on Twitter. So it was
Yeah,
and they ended up being someone that I helped lead to a fairly successful trading career. So it's
it's
all
amazing,
good,
man.
but
Yeah,
when you're focused on you're focused on your execution, you're focused on the one thing you can control in the market, right? You.
that's
As
it.
soon as you're focused
That's
on
it.
me, as soon as you're focused on them, whoever they are, right?
Yeah,
Then you're out. You're
yeah.
not where you need to be. The market is one of my favorite handles from one of our members in the community is
Mhm.
UVU is his handle, you versus you. We
Yes,
actually just saw
yes.
him at the last meetup in Miami, which we do have a meetup for. Hey, for the YouTube family, by the way, we do have a meetup coming up in San Diego that I will be at. I don't. My man Carlos, I don't think is making
No,
the
no, I
flight
can't
out
go,
for
man.
that
I'm
one.
all the way here in the East Coast, and I got the kids and the family, so not
Yeah, so
happening this
I'm
time.
I'm only popping for a couple of days, so I'm basically flying in, doing a presentation on
Yeah,
VPA, a couple things, and flying out. But I'll be there, so anyone out there in YouTube land that wants to come by and say hi, if you haven't gotten a ticket and coming over to San Diego, make sure you check out the BBT meetup there. I'll be there.
yeah,
So
yeah,
doing all that, and it'll be a lot of fun. But UVU is one of my favorite handles because it really talks about when you're competing, especially as a retail member in the market, the systems are doing what they're going to do basically regardless of your presence. So
yeah,
when you get in, when you get out, you know. So if something happens, I think you said this, and maybe you did it to yourself, you know. I
Yeah. Oh
mean, I
yeah.
think you said
Yeah.
this in the
Absolutely.
last
Yeah.
webinar, right?
Yeah.
Or not, the last podcast episode. I mean, I think you actually said this, which is, you know, it's self-inflicted. If you lost money,
Absolutely.
you did it to yourself. I was like,
Absolutely.
man, that's brilliant.
At least if you lost more than you plan to lose, right? It's
Yeah, yeah,
all on you. It's all on you.
yeah.
Um, all right, guys, as we get ready to wrap up, thank you so much for watching and tuning in. We actually have a couple of guests lined up that we haven't had dates yet, but we actually have a moderator too that we're going to bring in. I've been talking to Megan. She's excited about joining us here for an episode as well. You're a former nemesis when you guys were going at it. What was it for the number of views? You guys were going at it back and forth one time.
I
Who won
know,
that
we're
battle, by the
competition.
way?
It's hard to compete with the chop champion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was
She's
fun.
already famous, so
Yeah,
how
that
am I
was fun.
supposed to do that? But with her coming on us, obviously the views will just skyrocket. So I'm willing to take
She's
them now.
amazing. She's a whole
So
lot of
no, but
fun.
Megan will be on Cali too. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
she's a blast. She's been dipping into options trading now and a bunch of other stuff like that. I'm not smart enough for options, so I trade equities and futures. But you know,
Well, when she comes on, then we're definitely gonna be talking some options. So we want to see how that's going because I don't know much about options, just a couple of things. But look forward to having her and kind of picking her brain on
for
that.
sure, for sure.
So, guys, if you haven't done so already, hit the thumbs up on this video or any podcast platform that you're listening in, and we'd love to hear your comment and feedback. Remember, you can always reach us at podcast@variabletraders.com, and we'd love to see you next time. Take care, and until the next video.
Thanks, people. See you later.